FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I've shared with you that in my past, it was about a million years ago, Robin.
Okay.
It was about a million years ago. I worked for the Juvenile Detention Center.
Yes.
And now there were kids in there who really, really were bad kids. And I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones who messed up and they weren't going to necessarily live a life of crime. But I could see maybe they needed a little coaching. And I was always under the belief that if you had a good job, you could feel good about yourself. You know, you could get a girlfriend or a boyfriend in the girl's case. I worked with the boys, by the way, just so you know. Mm-hmm. So I always thought, okay, well, so this is the thing. So then I would say to the guys, I would say, this is what you need to do. You need to find, but I worked at a hamburger place. I've had jobs. And I've said, okay, well, is that really your passion, making hamburgers? If it is, good for you. Good, then make the best hamburger in the world. And then I had this thought about discovering that the world was round, okay? When, I don't know if we want to credit that to Christopher Columbus or Magellan, whoever you want to credit it to, the whole idea was, in my mind, that if you looked up into the solar system, you would see every planet is round, right? Mm-hmm. So why would ours be any different? And I said the same thing is true with creation. If you look at all the animals that God has created, every one of them has this unique ability to provide for itself, to defend itself, to provide shelter for itself, right? To reproduce. Well, they all have these unique gifts and talents, and the difference between and so therefore, why would humans be any different? Just like with the round planets, why would we be any different? I think the big difference between humans and the rest of creation is that, for example, all beavers know how to make a dam, right?
Yeah.
Okay? But all humans don't have the same talent. That's the unique thing about us humans. We all have something different. And if you could earn a living with that thing you are passionate about, I think that's the secret to a lot in life. And how many of us discovered that by accident, by just trial and error, getting the wrong job, and then knowing in your heart what you wanted to do? Maya Dewar has written this book called Work That Matters, and I love the concept. I love the premise of the book. Create a livelihood that reflects your core intention. That's the subtitle. Maya is a writer, an organizational consultant, a coach for people going through life and career transitions. She's an anthropologist,
I love that
a Zen meditator. And what else did I read about her? Was she a shrimp shucker or something? There was something else on the list. I can't remember what it was. What? Good morning, Maya. What was it?
An alfalfa sprout packer at one point in time.
Oh my gosh, that must have been a boring job. I can't imagine that being a passion. So good morning, Maya Dewar. How are you?
Good morning, Larry. Great to hear your voice, and I'm doing well. I'm over here in Santa Fe waving to you.
That's what I wanted to know. You must know my first question is always, where are you? I love that.
I didn't know that.
I'm a map
I guess
guy.
I'm a psychic, too. Huh?
Well, you know, us men, we like maps. I don't know why that is, but I can visualize where you are. So thank you for coming on. So did you have your show? Well, I guess the alfalfa packing, that must have been, what were you thinking at that time? Like, oh my gosh, where's the clock?
I was thinking, like, I need to make money. Here's a job that I can do, and I'll just get this done. So it was pretty interesting, actually. It was in somebody's basement. They grow them in their basement. It's like a kind of hydroponic farm.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And and that's a very insightful statement, because now today, some people, instead of getting a job, they feel like they're entitled for other people to take care of them, and they don't want to get any kind of job except one in particular.
I'm not quite sure where to go with that, but I feel like our whole relationship to work leaves a lot to be desired in this society. So, like I write in the book, like I feel like it's a source of suffering for a lot of people, right? So it actually makes sense why we wouldn't want to get a job. It's like, God, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think we need a reframing of it for sure.
Yeah. I think using if you heard my intro about the kids in the detention center, I think sometimes work finds us. success also. I mean, you've probably heard stories, and maybe this is true in your case. Maybe you just got a job because you needed a job, and next thing you know, you're loving what you do, and it suddenly it found you. You didn't find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, that can happen. I think in my book, what I really try to emphasize is that it's so important, like a key piece of finding work that you love or creating it, is you really need to understand what your core intention is, which is actually a little bit different than a passion. I know we always hear about, follow your passion, but the core intention is the why that's underneath that. So that is really worth spending some time on and just understanding it's like a purpose. What is your purpose for being here? What's your gift that you have to offer? And it may overlap a little bit of your passion, but they could actually be different things.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I guess we could use it for this. If our passion was radio, then we were in the right job. But if our core intention was to communicate, well, that expands way beyond this microphone, right?
Exactly, and I think that's the beauty of understanding what your core intention is. You don't get trapped in thinking, like, if I just get this job, I will find happiness. Because we know that's not true, right?
Right.
I've gone through a whole lifetime of experimentation with this and, tried things that I thought, oh, this should work, but it didn't. And it was because I was really disconnected from what my core intention was. So that was, for me, what kind of clicked things in place.
I love the phrase you use, liberation-based livelihood. I think that makes such an impact.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm not ever sure how that's going to land with people, but to me, it's quite simple. It's just that means that's a livelihood, and I use that word intentionally rather than job because I feel like it opens up many more possibilities. But it's a way that you can express whatever your core intention is.
Well, and with that said, I wanted to tell you something that one of the things Robin and I have done in our past is we wrote songs for children, and one of the songs was called "You Can Be Whatever You Want," and we had some criticism, some pushback. Because they were saying, why are you telling children they can be anything they want? That's not true. And I had to think about it. And what you just said right there is sort of what I came to the conclusion is, well, maybe I can't be a professional baseball player. But why can't I be a baseball player? Well, forget about making money with it. Why couldn't I, if baseball is my passion, why couldn't I join a team and work, work in a law firm or something? Why couldn't I do that? It's right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I sometimes tell this story that I feel like was really helpful for me to just understand how narrow we can get about what work means. But when I was in my 30s, it was actually right after I graduated from getting a master's degree in anthropology, and I gave myself the gift to go to Bali for a little while. I was there for 6 weeks on the island of Bali, and I was just kind of being an anthropologist, hanging out, watching how people live their life. And the one thing that really stood out to me was that, every morning I would sit on my patio and have a cup of coffee and kind of watch the flow of life go by. And it was fascinating because it was always women who were working. I don't know why this was, but they would go out every day. They would go out to the fields and do farming. They would actually be working on construction on the road. So they were the workers. But during the day, in the middle of the day, there was no schedule to this, but they would be working, and then they would just stop, and they would have like a religious ceremony there, which is called a puja. So they would do that for half an hour or so, and they would bring their kids with them, so the kids were just there while they were working, and then they would just be, laughing with each other and joking. So it really kind of taught me, like, wow, we have such a narrow box that we put things in. We have work here, and then we have, say, church over here, and our family over here, and they never really come together. But in their life, everything was actually merged into the same flow.
Wow.
So, just like what you're saying, it's like, yeah, if we really have a passion or a core intention that's something that's got to do with, baseball, it doesn't need to mean that, if we can't be a professional baseball player, like, well, forget it, we're going to be depressed our entire life. We can actually find ways to weave that into our life in a way that's going to be really fulfilling to us.
I think the message that you are delivering here on the show, and as well as in the book, of course, is the perfect message for somebody who's not sure. And you want to know something? I was telling you about juveniles, but I'm thinking somebody who's retired also faces this because they're done with that job, and now they're like, well, now what do I do? So I think they can re-examine themselves and find again that purpose.
Absolutely. And I feel, as I've gone out on book readings and done workshops, I feel like the people who have actually gravitated towards this work the most are folks in their 50s and 60s, people leaving mainstream employment, but they're not done with their life yet, right? So this book, I think, offers a process to really reflect on your life in a really creative way, and then just go into your next chapter and create that in a way that's super intentional and really meaningful for you.
You have different perspectives in your book from different personalities, and I found that was intriguing.
Oh, give me some examples. I'm not sure who you're referring to.
Well, like Katya, for example.
Oh, yeah, right. So there are people who so the book itself started its life as an online course. So about 6 or 7 years ago. And I've been self-employed now for 10 years, so I've had my own business. And you have to be, when you're self-employed, you've got to be really creative in how you make money, right? So that's taught me a lot. So about 7 years ago, one of my experiments was to create this online course, because I realized I actually had a lot of expertise in this topic. So I created a course called Fall in Love with Your Work, and that became the basis of this book. So yeah, throughout the book, I share stories of people who have taken that course and the kind of insights they have, the sorts of transformations that they've had. So that was one of them, Katya.
So what is your core? Tell me what your core purpose is.
So what I've learned about myself, and believe me, it's taken a lot of time to figure this out, although it got, like I was sharing the book, the process got a lot more accelerated when I brought my meditation practice into it. It was like, oh, that was the missing ingredient. But I feel what's true for me is my core intention is to help people to open their hearts and minds. So, giving people new perspectives, new ways of seeing their life, and new possibilities for their life.
And if you could somehow talk to the kid in 7th grade who's being bullied right now, 12th grade graduation, college, it seems a million years away, and they seem so stuck, and you hear these horrible stories of kids who commit suicide and just or shoot up the other kids, and it's horrible, and I wish somehow we could drop into that young person's life this message. I think this message would help them figure out, oh my gosh, yes, I am gifted just as every other creature on the planet is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really beautiful way to look at it. And also just to remind them, it's like from our own experiences, because we probably all went through a lot of suffering in our teen years, right? But just to give them a perspective from the long view, like it does get better. Hang in there. It gets better.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they probably would just be comforted to know that they're not alone in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that it's possible to live your life, and you don't have to fit yourself into a mainstream definition of what work is. You can actually be creative with that. And to have mentors, I think, that kids can learn from and see like, wow, this person did it, this 30-year-old, this 40-year-old, if they're doing it, maybe there's some hope that I can actually do something creative too.
Well, your book is like a pep talk for positiveness and creativity, because sometimes things don't go the way that you planned it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the the ingredient in the book that's unique, because there's definitely a lot of books on this topic out there, but I think weaving in the meditation and the mindfulness practice, that is something that for me I've found very helpful. And I think it's a reminder, that if we have a practice like that in our lives, it just helps us build the capacity to know that, whatever comes at us, it actually is our choice how we respond to it. We don't have to fall into old patterns and old, unhelpful, unproductive patterns of responding to something. So it gives it that kind of sense of like, oh, every moment is a new moment. I don't have to be who I was 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago. How can I respond to this in a way that's actually going to work for me and create some benefit for my life?
You have a schedule on here, and I want to compare it to my own. It's the morning schedule. You wake up, you take a shower, you put water on for tea, you meditate for 10 minutes, and I want to come back to that, and then you enjoy your tea, make breakfast, and leave for work, and that all takes place in an hour and 15 minutes. Well, for me, I wake up, I take a shower, I don't put water on for tea. I will get some water from the fridge because I like cold water. And then I will sit on the couch as I'm getting ready to put my socks on, and I don't know that I meditate, but you know what I do? I look at my phone.
What do you do?
I look at my phone. Is that that might be as close to meditating as I'm going to get? I don't know.
Well, what does that do for you when you look at your phone? I guess that'd be my question. What are you training yourself to do when you look at your phone? There?
Nothing. It's just mindless. It's just mindless stuff. So I should meditate. When you meditate, do you focus on anything, or do you try to? I've never understood emptying your mind. I've never understood how you can not think.
Mine's empty a lot.
Right. That's a really, I think, a very unhelpful description of meditation that gets passed around a lot.
Oh, good.
But
Good.
In my understanding and the way I was taught, that's actually not what we're doing. What you're doing is you're learning how to not let your thoughts run away with you, basically. So it's almost like you develop this witness part of yourself, and you can watch, oh my goodness, what an interesting thought that was. But the whole idea is, it's like my teacher once said to me, it's like, just like our body, what it does, we sweat, right? You secrete sweat. That's what your mind does. It's meant to secrete thoughts. So there's no way you're going to stop that. But what you're learning to do with some kind of practice is just actually have a different relationship to those thoughts, where you're not letting the story run away with you, and you can actually be in the driver's seat.
And sometimes you can make yourself overwhelmed when you have a lot of different thoughts, and then you can't get anything accomplished.
Right. So that's where a practice helps you just be able to okay, just this right in this moment, I don't need to pay attention to what's out there, but what's right in front of me. And that helps with bringing the overwhelm down a little bit.
Our guest is Maya Dewar. She is the author of the book called Work That Matters, Create a Livelihood That Reflects Your Core Intention. And again, I would like to let me tell you, Maya, that our listening audience is probably every demographic you can imagine. We have a university in our listening audience, so those are the young ones. We have a lot of retirement communities, so those are the older ones. And I'm guessing everybody probably looks at their future and wonders what they're going to do with it. And I think that's the coaching that your book provides.
Mm-hmm. Right. And like I said, I think the very first step is to go through a process, which is in the book, around how you just become more familiar with that core intention, how you can get clues about what that is and really clarify that for yourself.
I love the fact
I think that's true for everybody of every age factor. So, yeah, please go ahead.
I love the fact you have a paper airplane on your cover, because that's kind of symbolic of life, I think.
What does it say to you, that paper airplane?
That it says that a person has the creativity to formulate something and then go forward with that. It might crash and burn, but you've got enough energy and wherewithal to pick yourself up and do it again till it succeeds. I love that.
Oh, that is so great. And the funny thing, that paper airplane was not my choice.
Oh, my.
The publisher came up with that, and I would have had a different idea about the cover. And it's taken me a while to kind of come around to it, but it's so great to hear you say that's how you read it, because that's a wonderful way to interpret that.
Do you think that our the livelihood we choose has to align with the community? I'm wondering if there isn't a bigger livelihood. What is the purpose of my city? What is the purpose of my state, etc.? And I don't know that you, as an individual, have to align with it, but it seems like a lot of people do. It seems like, especially in their extracurricular things.
That's a really interesting perspective. But I feel I'm really community minded, so I don't think of anything as in isolation from anything else. And I feel like that's the reason why I've ended up here in Santa Fe, because I feel like I'm in a place where a lot of people share the similar values as I do, and it feels like a place where I've actually been able to create my own livelihood, because that's what a lot of people here do. So I think you're onto something when just considering, place that we're living in, that we share together, what is it what do we need to create together?
But see, we experience this all the time because we do a radio show, and let me explain. Robin and I do a radio show, and we hope it does two things. We hope it entertains, and we hope it informs. Those are the two things. But what else it does is it gives us an opportunity to be part of our community by, let's say we read about the lady raising money to help the homeless. We say, would you come in here and talk? And then she comes in here and talks about it. And next thing you know, we are somehow a part of the community because of this vehicle that we've created.
That's beautiful. So it feels like there's a kind of shared commitment to, how do we take care of each other? If this group here is homeless and this woman is organizing something to help, like how can we help her?
Right.
So I love that kind of symbiotic relationship that's growing there.
Right. And while it feels like she's doing the more important thing, like we're not, we're just kind of talking. So she's doing the more important thing, but we plug into what the others are doing. And so that becomes, that makes our purpose or our, the core of us a little bit more validated, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's like I think every community is, or it needs to be, an ecosystem, right? Just like, if you go out on a walk in the forest and, there's like mushrooms and there's trees and birds and they're all doing different things, but they all depend on each other. That's exactly what you're describing. And you all, since you have the communication vehicle, you can get the word out about what she's doing in a way that wouldn't happen otherwise.
I like the fact that you wrote in there the sentence, "You've reached the end of this book," because it's like, okay, we've been having all of this inspiration and things and everything that you and your followers have had, but now it's our turn to get out from whatever stigma it is that we've been trying to submerge ourselves in, and just expand our horizons and do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's basically taking the ball and putting it in the reader's court and go with it. And I actually created, because, like I was saying, community is really important to me as well. So throughout the book, there's some links there, and there's actually an online community for people who are reading the book to connect with each other and share what they're going through. Because I really feel like it's a process that doesn't stop with the book, right? And the more that we're able to support each other and reflect back what we see going on, that's how we actually grow.
Exactly. Well said.
I did find the book on Amazon. It looks like it's doing really well. You're getting some really good reviews on the book, 5 stars across the board. The book is called Work That Matters, and guess what? Maya sent us one. So I have a copy of the book. If you would like the one that she sent us, you can call right now, and I'll set it aside for you. You can come pick it up. I know you can buy it on Amazon. Maya, do you want to recommend a website?
Sure. Yeah, the website I've got is the same as my name, so it's www.mayadeur.com. And you can also find lots of my writings on there. I feel like of all the things I've done in my life, probably the thing I do the best and the one I really relate to the most is being a writer. So you'll find a lot of my blog writings for the past 7 or 8 years that are on my website.
And you also help people break down barriers, not just their own emotional barriers, but the barriers for different cultures as well.
I try to. I mean, I feel like that's what I'm all about. It's just really, like I said before, the core intention, helping people open their hearts and minds. And part of that feels like, serving as a bridge. So I feel like throughout my life, I've kind of gone back and forth between different groups of people. My very first career, I worked in mental health. So sort of like you, Larry, I worked in this setting where it was pretty intense on a state psychiatric ward. But what I really learned was like, wow, there are so many things that we, quote unquote, normal people could actually learn from these folks who had a very different way of, living life and perceiving things. And so I feel like that's a lot of what I've tried to bring back and forth is just, breaking those barriers down, that we're not as different as we think we are.
Do you know, what I'm wondering is if, as you are writing this book, did the message that you're writing for the reader, was it also for yourself? Did you somehow find yourself listening to your own words?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the book actually started as an online course. So by the time it got to be a book, I had a lot of it already written. But when I was creating the online course, I was amazed. Like, as I was writing it, as I was, sharing it with people, like I did, I felt like I was taking my own lessons. Like, oh my gosh, I just discovered something. So it was definitely a path of discovery for me too.
Isn't that interesting? I love what you just said. I've often thought that the best way to learn to play piano is to try to teach somebody piano, because you've got to learn it before you can teach it, right?
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Work That Matters. Create a livelihood that reflects your core intention. Maya Dewar, thank you so much for being on the show. Maya spells her first name M-A-I-A and her last name D-U-E-R-R. Maya Dewar. Thank you, Maya. Thank you for being on the show. That was great. Great conversation.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you, Larry and Robin.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
graduate degree in management and leadership from Webster University, there'll never be a better time for you to explore what's next in your career. Classes are scheduled so you can continue your normal workday routine, and the accelerated program means a new term starts about every 10 weeks. If you're looking to gain a broad general management and leadership perspective, then Webster University's Management and Leadership degree program is the right one for you. It's all a part of what's next at Webster University.
Go to webster.edu/manage, accredited by ACBSP.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, partly sunny. A breezy, pleasant day with a high of 79 on the coast, 84 inland. Clear to partly cloudy Wednesday night, lows in the low 60s inland, 68 at the coast. Sunshine and pleasant on Thursday, breezy in the afternoon, high 80 at the coast, 87 inland. For Friday, partly sunny, high 81 at the coast, near 90 well inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA.
I'm Chris Foster. A setup, a trap, and a witch hunt are words President Trump's using on Twitter today to describe special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation.
The president also quoting a former U.S. attorney who said the questions Mueller wishes to ask the president are an intrusion into the president's Article 2 powers under the Constitution to fire any executive branch employee.
Fox's John Decker, it's come out the president's been threatened with a subpoena if he does not answer those questions. The Iowa legislature has passed the strictest anti-abortion law in the country.
Iowa's Republican-controlled state Senate fast-tracked a vote this morning on a so-called heartbeat bill that seeks to ban most abortions once a fetal heartbeat is detected. Legislation that would effectively ban most abortions around 6 weeks of pregnancy before critics say some women even know they're pregnant.
Fox's Jeff Manasso, the bill still needs the governor's signature. Fox News, we report, you decide.
When you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes. You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes. Set up screener questions based on your job requirements. Then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed.
Pros in the know start with Lowe's, because for 4 days only during our Pro Spring Appreciation event, you can get 5% off all purchases. Or if you use your Lowe's Business Credit account, you can save 10%. Both offers are valid for purchases made in-store and online at lowesforpros.com. That's 5% off all purchases and an extra 5% if you use your Lowe's Business Credit account. So, Pro, now that you know, let's get started. Offer valid 5/1 through 5/4, subject to credit approval and can't be combined with other credit offers. Exclusions apply, U.S. only.
April showers bring May flowers, but May is easily the most special month for Palm Garden of Ocala. Nurses Week is the first week of May, and we have award-winning nurses and CNAs taking care of our precious residents. National Nursing Home Week begins on Mother's Day and is filled with special events. May is the perfect month to come visit before our services